So again, I'm Tony Lewis. I'm COO at ClearlyIP. We do a bunch of different things. SIP trunking is a big chunk of what we do. Our multi-tenant PBX from our acquisition is also a large chunk of what we do. And then we do a little bit of hardware. So we have a line of our own phones and some appliances. Again, really geared around FreePBX. Our phones are agnostic. They can run on anything, but you get a lot of power and features when you use them with FreePBX. They're completely rebrandable. So we have a low MOQ, I believe it's 10 at a time for a minimum order quantity, and we'll rebrand the phones with your own logo. There's a low one-cost setup fee that you pay one time, and big discounts on the phones to resellers to help you keep high margins. So let's get into our SIP trunking here. We seem to think this is clearly the best trunking for FreePBX systems. We put a lot of effort into tightly integrating this into FreePBX and providing a good user set and feature set for everyone. So generally how it's bought, and we'll talk about two different ways. It's bought with what we call our call path, which every call path is for normal business usage, inbound, outbound calling, single call at a time. So if you need 4 or 5 concurrent calls, you'd buy 4 or 5 call paths. We do offer metered services where you pay per minute, and we offer a hybrid where you can say, okay, most of the time we're using 3 calls at a time, but occasionally we go to 4, 5, 6, 7 calls. So you could buy 3 call paths from us and then pay per minute to burst beyond those 3 call paths. So those start as low as $17.99 a month with contracts. At MSRP, it does get lower than that for our resellers and partners. There's additional discounts built into that for our partners who are part of our partner program. But just at an MSRP level, you get down to $17.99 with I think it's a 3-year contract, and then DIDs are 60 cents a piece on a 3-year contract. And then there's a 1-year and a month-to-month option. And it includes full voice, E911, SMS, and MMS, the ability to buy numbers, full real-time international calling, and tight integration into FreePBX. So a little bit about the architecture. So this is an N+ redundancy is built into our platform. Currently, we run off of 2 primary data centers with redundant servers within each data center, what we call a pod, and a 3rd pod coming on later this year. So within each pod, there's built-in redundancy within that pod with separate IP addresses or domain names to get to that pod within the load balancer. And then each pod or data center talks with the other pods to know where you're registered to. So if for whatever reason you lost registration to our central pod and you're only connected to Eastern, we know automatically where you're connected and reroute calls to whatever pod you're connected to, even if a call comes to us from upstream carriers to the wrong pod. So there's built-in load sharing and redundancy and redirecting within our pods to guarantee, to protect us against outages in the event that a data center were to go down. The pods all communicate with each other, but they're also designed that in the event they lose connection to another data center, they'll continue to operate on their own. So each trunking location, so what we call in our stores a location, generally you guys would think of it as a PBX, can be set up with the following core service. So the first thing you have to decide is, do you want to buy call paths from us, where you pay per month flat rate for each call path and you get unlimited calling for most U.S. destinations and, or I should say, most North American destinations for normal business usage? Or do you want to pay metered where you pay per minute? And then there's the hybrid where you can buy the call pass and then enable bursting at a low rate at 0.009 cents a minute to burst beyond those call paths. So each call path allows for 1 simultaneous inbound or outbound call. So both our call path trunks and our metered include for free inbound SMS on all of our local 10-digit DIDs. So any local 10-digit DID is inbound SMS is free, and you get CNAM lookup for free. So the call ID name portion when somebody calls you and we look up into the national databases for the name, that's free on all inbound calls. And then if you buy our call path trunking, if you set up a location with our call path trunks, you also get a free E911 callback profile and dispatchable location. We'll talk more about those in a little bit. And then you can purchase additional ones beyond that. Local DIDs can be purchased in both US and Canada. They're at $1 MSRP with no contracts. And toll-frees can be purchased at $1.50 MSRP and 0.0021 or 2.1 cents per minute on the toll-free. SMS and MMS support. So inbound SMS is free on local numbers. Inbound MMS, so if you're doing multimedia messaging like videos and images, they're charged at 1.5 cents per message. Outbound SMS is charged at 9/10, just under 1 penny per message. And outbound MMS is charged at 2 cents per message. You can view and send all your SMS and MMSs from within the user control panel of FreePBX. And a single DID can be shared with more than one user. So a DID gets shared with users in FreePBX, and then those users can send and receive messages from any of the DIDs they have permissions for. So if I have permission to view 3 different DIDs, I can see all the inbound messages on those DIDs and send out any new or reply to any existing message on those DIDs that I have permissions to. And then if Preston had access to the same DID, he would see my replies going out too. So a little bit on E911 and the Kari's Law and Ray Baum Act, which went into effect this year. 2 new laws that were passed by Congress a couple years ago went into effect back in February. So we're not lawyers. These are our opinions. We feel we're experts in VoIP, and this webinar falls within the parameters of our expertise. But again, we are not lawyers. We're going to give you the advice based on how we interpret the laws. So the 3 primary requirements that are in effect today, and there's more requirements going into effect next year and the year after, but the 3 that are in effect today between Kari's Law and Ray Baum's Act is you can no longer allow a prefix to dial 911. So a lot of hotels, for example, you'd have to have 9 for an outside line, and to call 911, you have to dial 911. That is no longer allowed. You have to allow calling 911 direct. Emergency notifications must be sent to personnel, alerting them to the emergency. So when a 911 call is made, you have to be able to, as long as your PBX supports it, notify people on staff that a 911 call was made and who actually made that call, so that they can help assist with the emergency and help assist when the emergency responders show up. And then 911 calls are to be transmitted to the appropriate PSAP, or what's known as Public Safety Answering Point, with a dispatchable location. So that dispatchable location has to be a location that gets the emergency services to where the person's having the emergency. So it's no longer good enough just to have your building address. Depending on the size of your building and everything else, you have to get into more geographical location within that building. So it could be like 2nd floor northeast corner, or suite 101, or guest room 101. You have to have more information than just the physical address now. And then there's a whole bunch of states that have added their own existing laws on top of Kari's Law and Ray Baum's. And this is a list as of about a month ago of the states we could find that have now added their own additional requirements on top of those. So you're going to want to check within your local states too, as they keep passing more additional restrictive laws on this stuff. So how did traditional E911 with SIP trunks work? They always paired it with a DID, or a phone number. So you bought a DID from a carrier, and then you added 911 to that DID, and you paid a fee to add it. So you're buying the DID, and you're paying $1, $2 a month for the DID, and then you're buying 911 for that DID, and you're paying another $1, $2, $3 a month for that 911. So now you're spending, $2 to $3 to $4 a month between the DID and the 911 for every person that you need to have a dispatchable location for. So that's how traditional 911 has been sold in the SIP world. We've engineered a new solution that helps get the cost down, and it no longer requires pairing and purchasing an E911 to a DID. And you can even use numbers that you don't have with us. So if you have DIDs or phone numbers with other service providers, you can bring your 911 just to us. So the DIDs don't have to belong to us. And we break it into two sections. The first section is what we call emergency callback profiles. And those at MSRP are $1 a month. And then your dispatchable locations are at 50 cents a month MSRP. And we're going to talk about how these two emergency callback profiles and dispatchable locations work together. So it allows you to get better cost savings, not have to buy DIDs for everyone, and get down the cost of the actual dispatchable location to get it down so you're not buying a $2 911 plus a $1 DID for every dispatchable location within the same building. So an emergency callback profile consists of 4 pieces of information. The first piece is the company name. The second piece is the caller ID of how we know you want to use this callback profile. The third piece is a callback phone number. So when we send the call to the PSAP, if they get disconnected, have to call back, what is the callback phone number? And that can be different from the caller ID. And then the fourth piece is a default location or dispatchable location. So a callback profile pairs with a default dispatchable location. So in the event that you don't tell us which dispatchable location you're using when you make a call, we will use the default one for that callback profile that's used. And we know which callback profile to use based on the caller ID of what you send us. And those are $1 a month. So generally what I like to say is the callback profile is a building, is a physical building. And then you have your dispatchable locations within that building. So that could be different floors, different wings, different suites, different hotel room numbers. Those are your dispatchable locations within that same building. So for that whole building, you're paying $1 a month. And then you're buying dispatchable locations that you're paying 50 cents a month MSRP for. And a dispatchable location is basically the easiest way to describe it is which door to kick down when the emergency services arrive. So it can be things like, your address, 3255 Highview Drive, second floor, west wing, or northeast corner. A dispatchable location does not modify the callback number. So the callback number is part of the callback profile. So when you make a call to 911, your PBX will send us and say, use this callback profile and optionally use this dispatchable location. If you don't tell us which dispatchable location to use, we use the default one for the callback profile. That callback profile has the caller ID, so we know which callback profile you're picking, and then it has the callback number. So the callback number would be some number you set up that rings a group of people who are trained in, if 911 calls back, here's how we handle the emergency. Then you get into notifications. So with a module we have that's free for FreePBX systems is we tie in notifications, and we provide notifications 3 different ways. So in the event of emergency, we have to call back, or the PSAP might have to call back. And if they call back, it's going to call that group of people that you set up that callback profile for, and we need to notify them that a 911 call was even made. So you have 3 ways of doing notifications every time a 911 call is made. The first way is you can page a group of phones, and it will page them. It will announce who called 911 and then drop them in the call muted, and they can unmute themselves and actually take part of the 911 call. You can also pick a group of phone numbers that you want us to send an SMS to, and we'll send out an SMS alerting them what extension called 911. And we can also send an email out to a list of email addresses. And you can pick any of these 3 together. It's not one or the other. So you can pick 2 out of the 3, 1 out of the 3, or all 3, and send out notifications to all 3 different types of notifications when a 911 call is made. So trunking module for your PBX. So we've got a module for FreePBX that allows really simple setup and managing of your trunks, your DIDs, your routes, all your 911, your notifications. This module gets downloaded from our wiki here, kb.clearlyip.com/trunking. And we're going to actually go through and use this module here in a minute. in this module, you can do things like map your 911. So in this example, we're saying extension 1000 Mike Smith is going to use the Appleton office callback profile and the Appleton office dispatchable location. Where Bob Jones is using Neenah office, and he's going to use the dispatchable location Neenah office second floor. So this is where you map each extension, what callback profile, what dispatchable location is going to use when they call 911. And then when you call 911, we know to send this information into the PSAPs. You can also give your end users permissions to control, based on what permissions you give them, the changing of their callback location, their callback profile and their dispatchable location, all from the FreePBX user control panel. So you can limit a user to say they're only allowed to pick from these callback profiles and these dispatchable locations, and they can change real time that information if you give them permission to from the user control panel. And then if you're using the ClearlyIP desk phones, we also have an app that lets you do this. And it also ties into our hot desking. So you can set an option that says every time a user logs in, show them what their current 911 location is and let them change it if they need to. So we're going to go into our store a little bit now and that trunking module to give you guys a feel for how this works. So our store is at trunking.clearlyip.com. And if you don't have an account, you can create an account. And once you log in, we start with locations. So I've got a list of a bunch of locations here we use for training and different webinars over time. So we're going to start adding a new location. And our first option is what type of call pass or what type of trunking do we want for this location? Do we want call pass subscription where you pay per call pass calling, or do you want to pay per minute only? So we're going to pick the call pass type. And now we pick, do we want a 36-month contract, 12-month, or month-to-month? So if we pick month-to-month, we'll see MSRP $24.99. If we pick 36-month, we'll see it $17.99. And if you're resellers, it gets even cheaper. So if we pick month-to-month, then you pick how many call pass you want. And you can change this real time in the future if you want. So we're going to start with 2. So this is going to allow us to make and receive 2 simultaneous calls at a time with no per minute cost to US and Canada. Then we give it some information, so we're going to call this our webinar test. Decide if you want to enable SMS, international calling, and concurrency bursting. We're going to come back to those and do them after we set up. Give us your address. So this address isn't for 911. This is for billing purposes because of all the taxes and everything in the U.S. We have to know what your physical address is for taxation purposes. And now we can real-time buy DIDs, local or toll-free. You'll see what your price is for the DIDs. Pick a rate center after you pick your state, and they'll come back with all the DIDs available in that rate center. So pick as many DIDs as you want. They get added to your cart. You can go ahead. We provide, when you buy our call path trunks, we provide a single dispatchable location and callback profile for free for 911. So you can set that up here. The caller name, the callback number, can be any phone number with us or without us. And then what is the call ID to use this callback profile, and you pick from any of the DIDs you bought from us. And then we get into our physical breakdown of the address. So we're a building, not a house. Our number of our building is 3255. Our street name is Highview Drive. We have no type, so this could be like Suite F or different things. Appleton, Wisconsin. So we hit next, and it's going to validate this address with the 911 services. So it takes a second. And it actually changed the address to be Highview, all capitalized, because that's the way the service providers wanted it. So you notice it says, the address was adjusted. Please verify the green fields are correct before continuing. So we'll hit next. You pick your payment method. We happen to have terms on this account. Most customers, by default, you're set up with credit cards, so you'd have to add your credit card here. We do have the ability for larger companies, public sector, those types of things to set up terms where we send you an invoice. Hit next, agree to the services, and you're done. So this is actually going to go buy those DIDs, set up the 911, create the invoice. If you're using credit card, capture the payment. It's going to do everything for us here. Takes about 15, 20 seconds. Create our E911 location, our callback profile, and we're done. New trunking location was created, so we can close this now. If we go look in, oh, it's right there. If we look, we have a webinar test location now. So if we click on here, now this is where we can see a bunch of information. So we can see our location ID, mainly used for when you open a support ticket, our main address, what plan we're under, month to month, when it started. We've got, for unlimited, we don't, that's a bad one. We're actually, let's go look at a location that's set up that we're going to use. Sorry about that. So over here is a good test location. So you'll notice metered, I have a limit of $100 and I've used $0 of it, so I have 100 available. This is a real-time balance as you're using up minutes. I've got one call path on this one, the unlimited call path. I can increase or decrease this. So I can say I want 2 now. This will me what my price is. And it'll take me now to 2 call paths real time. I can see over here I have SMS enabled. I don't have international, so I'm going to enable international. And then I have concurrency bursting enabled. And I've got some limits here. I have 100 and I have 10. So this is a weekly limit. This says I'm only allowed to spend $10 a week on international. And when it goes over 10, it's going to kill all active calls. So this is fraud protection. And then bursting, same thing. I'm going to allow bursting, so if I need more than 2 simultaneous calls, I'm going to pay per minute, but my limit is $100 a month. And I can hit this edit icon, and I can edit a few things here. First thing I can do is I can see for international calling, I'm only allowed 3 calls at a time. If you want more than 3, you have to contact us. But if you want to take it down, I could take it to 2. And then metered, that bursting, you're allowed 20 channels of bursting. You can take it down if you want, so like 15 or 5, but you can't go up without contacting us. You're only allowed up to 20. Weekly limits for international, $10. So if you read the help text here, it says you can go up to $10. So you can set this to be 5 if you wanted, but you can only go to 10. If you want more than 10, you click here and fill out a form that we do for verification, and we can increase your limit, your weekly international limit. And then same with metered. By default, you get $100. If you need more, you can fill out a form that sends in a submission to us, and we can give you access to more. So I could take it to 75 or 25 or 5. So you get to pick what those fraud protection levels are you want. Failover. This is where I can control my failover. So in the event we try to send a call to you on an inbound call, we cannot get we can't get your PBX to accept the call, you can set a failover. And that failover can be to a phone number, so you could put your cell phone number in here, or it could be to an IP address or domain name of another PBX. So this is at a global level. I can set a failover for the whole location, and all DIDs will fail over to that. I can see what my default emergency callback profile is for 911. And I can even change that to other 911 callback profiles I've purchased as what I want for my default. So I happen to have 3 on this location, so I could pick a different one if I wanted. So I could say I want that to be my primary instead. My SIP credential, SIP username and password, and a key token we're going to use for the module in FreePBX in a minute. And then down here I can see all my phone numbers. I can see all my callback profiles that I have and all my dispatchable locations that I have for this location. For a phone number, I can even come in and set failover at a number level. So earlier we talked about we can set failover at a global level. You can also set failover at an individual DID level. So in the event we try to send the call to your PBX and it doesn't accept it, we first look to see if you have a DID level failover. If so, we use that for that DID. If not, we look to see if there's a global failover. So you can set a global as a catch-all, but you could set individual DIDs to fail over to individual people's cell phone numbers in the event your PBX is unreachable. So that's kind of locations and numbers at a glance. There's a lot of other stuff in the store. You get into like all your organization information. So billing information, what day of the month, if you have credit with us, what your credit terms are, who your contacts are for technical billing, porting, and sales. And you can have multiple contacts. Under contacts, you can add new contacts and enable login to the store into this portal. So when you create a contact, you can also give them login ability. Invoices will give you all your history of invoices and let you pay any invoices that are due. If you had terms, for example, with us, view your past invoices. CDRs, real time will show you CDRs of all your locations. So we can filter and pick a specific location. For example, this location, set a date range, and it will filter and show you all the CDRs and let you download your CDRs. It'll also show you if it's a metered call, what the cost was. So if it was a international call or a bursted call, and you would see the cost here for it, if there was any billables on it. Payment methods lets you manage your credit cards on file with us and add more, and edit them and delete them. Porting, you need port numbers to us. You can submit your porting request right here. Fill out this form. Support, you can submit support request right here. So this is kind of your store at a glance. What we're going to do now is go into our FreePBX system and actually set up our trunks. So I've uninstalled my ClearlyIP trunking module from here so I can show you guys from the ground up how to do it. So the first thing we do is we go to module admin and we need to upload a new module. And in our wiki here, which is kb.clearlyip.com, there's directions how to set it up with FreePBX and PBExact automated way. You got to grab this URL that I have highlighted here and post it in here and download it from the web. Now it's been downloaded into your local FreePBX. Now we have to go install it. So if we come down to connectivity, trunking module, we click install. And this is going to install the module. Once the module is installed, if we release updates, new features, whatever, it will just be in module admin. You'll just check online for updates and it will update the module for you just like any other module on your FreePBX system. So once we have the module installed under connectivity, we get a Clearly trunking now. And here's where we paste that key code. So over here under locations, if we go view a location, we can take this key code, copy it, go paste it in here. But before we do that, actually, I'm going to show you guys. We have no inbound, outbound routes or trunks set up. So trunks are empty. Inbound routes are empty. Outbound routes are empty. So we're going to paste this fancy key code in there, hit submit. And it's going to go set up a pairing between your PBX and your trunking location. So it's my Tony test box location name. It'll show me my default callback profiles being used and a recap of my services. Now, if I click this little blue button, it's going to automatically set up my trunks and outbound routes. So it's first saying, what do you want as your main caller ID for your trunks? So pick from any of your DIDs, save this, and it's now set up your routes and your trunks. So if we go look in trunks here and refresh this page, we'll see we have two trunks. If we go into outbound routes, it's going to set up outbound routes for us. It's set up international since we enabled international. It's set up an emergency route and a normal outbound route. So they're all set up for us. Now if we click on number listing, it's going to show us all the DIDs we have in our account. And you'll notice under failover, one of them set up with failover, two of them are not configured. So you can actually set failover from here, just like you can in the store. We let you set in either place. They're both saved in the same place in our back end. And route 2 is missing, meaning these DIDs have not been set up in our FreePBX system. If we go look under inbound routes and refresh, we have no inbound routes. So the route 2, when it says missing, means we haven't set these up yet. We can hit this little button, auto configure, and it's going to auto set up all of our inbound routes for us. If we go into inbound routes in FreePBX and refresh, we'll see they're all there now. By default, it sets the destination to be this clearly trunking DID verification. When you call it, it's just going to play back the DID you dialed and the caller ID you dialed from. So from here, you can edit your inbound routes to route them to wherever you want, or from within our module under number listing, you can just click on this route to and just pick where you want to route them to in your PBX really quickly. Save that one. We could say time condition. Oh, I don't have a time condition. We'll just pick another extension. So all within one place. You don't even have to edit each DID individually. You can just come right in here and map them all to wherever you want. We're going to go ahead and apply our config now. So our trunks, our inbound routes, and outbound routes are all done. We're ready to start making and receiving phone calls. So that's the numbers listing tab. SMS, so this is going to show you all your DIDs that are SMS capable. And then you can pick what users are allowed to send and receive SMSs for each DID. So if we click here, this one, we'll see none of the users are selected. So we can say this user, and this user can use this DID for SMS. And we can click on another DID. Maybe we'll say select all for those. So at a per DID level, you pick which users are allowed to send and receive SMS. And then emergency listings. So this is going to pull in all of our dispatchable locations for this trunking location. So I happen to have 6 of them here. It's going to pull in all of our callback profiles. So I have 3, a Neenah office, an Appleton office, and an Oshkosh. And then we can see the Neenah office, the default dispatchable location is the Neenah basement location. Appleton office is the Appleton office location. Oshkosh is Oshkosh. So if we go look at dispatchable locations, we'll see we have a Neenah office first floor, second floor, third floor and basement, and then Appleton office and an Oshkosh office. Now, this is where we pick what extensions are going to use which callback profiles in which dispatchable locations. So by default, it says use the device emergency caller ID. What this means is if any of these people right now call 911, it's going to use this outbound caller ID, which is your default location, your default callback profile and location that you set in Clearly Trunking. So over here, remember we set what is our default callback profile. It knows it's this caller ID, and it's set that up for us. So if we don't change these, it's just going to use the default of the outbound route. But let's say Mike is Neenah office and he works on the first floor. Paul is Neenah office, but he's on the second floor. Brian is Appleton. Bob is Oshkosh. And Jen is Neenah, but she's on the third floor. So I've just mapped all this. It's all saved now. So if there's no save button, it real-time saves it. So if Jen were to call 911 right now, it would send to 911 the Neenah office with the Neenah office third floor dispatchable location. Then we get into notifications for 911. So we're going to add a new notification here. We're going to call this main. Actually, let's call this Neenah. Neenah. So we're going to send out outbound SMS and wants to know which of our DIDs we want to use as the from for sending out SMS. This is the body of what's going to be sent out. So it's going to be on and then the variable date and the time an emergency call was placed by, the variable extension name, to, and then what they dialed, 911, and then what trunk they used. So now you can come in here and put in a list of phone numbers that will receive, and these can be any phone numbers, your own cell numbers, anything that will receive the SMS. Email is the same way. So you'd put in your from address, you get a subject and a long body, and then who's going to get this email when somebody calls 911. So that's SMS and email. Then for paging, you can optionally pick any page group you've set up on your PBX already, and it will send the page out to that group of phones in that page group. So now we've set up our notifications. Now we go to route notifications and we pick, for example, Clearly Trunking Emergency, and we link it to that new notification we just created that we called Nina, and save your changes. So you'll see Nina's all green now. SMS, email, and paging are green, where these are red saying there is no notifications for these routes. And we are done. So we've set up trunking, inbound routes, outbound routes, SMS, all of our 911, mapped it to every user, and set up notifications all within 5 minutes. So now, for example, if we log into UCP, the FreePBX user control panel, as a user, I think it's 1001. First thing we can see is I actually had an SMS set up here already, so we'll close this for right now. Okay, so here's a user control panel in FreePBX. We can add some widgets. So the first widget we're going to add is Clearly Trunking the emergency settings. Actually, I missed one thing. Sorry about this. Back in the Clearly device module, I'm logged in as extension 1001. If we click this edit icon, this is where we can pick which callback profiles are allowed to pick from UCP, and which dispatchable locations are allowed to pick from. So now I'm logged in as 1001 in UCP. They can click this and pick from what we just gave them permissions for. And they can real-time change their own 911 information. So we just changed it to Appleton when it was Nina for Paul. So if we refresh in here now, we'll see he's got Appleton set. I'm going to also add a widget for SMS and pick from the DIDs I have permissions for. And from here, I can view history. So this is history from messages. If I click the little eye here, I can see the history of everything that was sent. I can delete the history. Or if I click here, I can bring up the thread and reply back. And send and receive my SMSs right from here. I can send emojis. I can upload images for MMS, all right from here. So that is the presentation. At this point, why don't we open it up for questions? There is, like I said, a Q&A section that you can ask any questions. Okay, Craig asked, how do you add new additional 911 locations? Okay, so in the store here, I can go under products and services, dispatchable locations, and from here I can add new ones. I pick what trunking location it's for, and then go through the wizard. Jay asked, webinar keeps locking up, had to restart twice. Can you repeat auto setup of routes? Yeah. So back in the trunking module here, if we go to Clearly Trunking, it's just this blue button right here. So we can actually quickly go and we'll just delete the trunks, outbound routes. We'll delete those just so you can see this. And all we do, once we've added our key code, we just hit this auto configure, pick which of our DIDs we want as the main caller ID for all the routes, and hit save. And now if we go look, there's your outbound routes. If we go actually look at one, you could change the caller ID if you wanted. Your dial pattern set up for all 1-800, 1 NXX, and 10-digit. Any more questions? Can I can I SMS only to your numbers or any number? No. So the SMS and MMS is any phone number that's capable of receiving SMS or MMS. You can send messages to from UCP and FreePBX. We have full support into North America, U.S. and Canada, sending and receiving SMSs from all carriers. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for their time. If you have any questions, sales is here at any time to assist you answer questions. If you get stuck on technical support, we've got free technical support helping you get set up and configure if you need help and assistance. Once you go to the store, you can click on the support link in the store here and open a ticket. You can also just call into our main phone number and hit the support option, and 90% of the time somebody will answer your call from the support team. If they're overloaded, you may get voicemail and they'll have to call you back, but you get free support from us, including after hours, full 24/7 for complete outages if you ever have a problem. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.